How did Josiah die, and why is his death an important turning point for Judah? This is the question we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 2 Kings on Walking Through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing 2 Kings chapter 23, verses 19 to 30. But before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to 2 Kings chapter 23, verse 19. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So 2 Kings chapter 23, beginning of verse 19. Now Josiah also took away all the shrines of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which the kings of Israel had made to provoke the Lord to anger. And he did to them according to all the deeds he had done in Bethel. He executed all the priests of the high places who were there on the altars and burned men's bones on them. And he returned to Jerusalem. Then the king commanded all the people, saying, Keep the Passover to the Lord your God, as it is written in this book of the covenant. Such a Passover surely had never been held since the days of the judges who judged Israel, nor in all the days of the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, in this Passover was held before the Lord in Jerusalem. Moreover, Josiah put away those who consulted mediums and spiritists, the household gods and the idols, all the abominations that were seen in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem, that he might perform the words of the law which were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. Now before him there was no king like him, who turned to the Lord with all his heart, with all his soul, and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses. Nor after him did any arise like him. Nevertheless, the Lord did not turn from the fierceness of his great wrath, with which his anger was aroused against Judah, because all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. And the Lord said, I will also remove Judah from my sight, as I removed Israel, and will cast off this city Jerusalem, which I have chosen, and the house of which I said, my name shall be there. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In his days, Pharaoh Necco, king of Egypt, went to aid the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates, and King Josiah went out against him. And Pharaoh Necco killed him at Megiddo when he confronted him. Then his servants moved his body in a chariot from Megiddo, brought him to Jerusalem, and buried him in his own tomb. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, anointed him, and made him king in his father's place. Over the last 4 lessons, we have been looking at the reign of the last good king of Judah, Josiah. This lesson will represent the last lesson due to his tragic death that we will cover in just a few moments. But what made Josiah righteous before God? It was his determination that he would do right with all his heart, soul, and strength, and for others to serve God too. He brought the nation out of idolatry upon finding the book of the law in the temple. Gone were all the idols and false altars in the temple. Gone were the idols and high places surrounding Jerusalem. Gone were all the idols and high places in Judah. And expanding it further, gone were all the idols and high places in Bethel and in the cities of Samaria, which is a stand-in for the land of the former nation of Israel. We can see the zeal and determination of Josiah here in all that he did. But it wasn't simply idolatry. Josiah put away the occult, mediums, and spiritists. He told Judah to even put away their household gods and not worship them. So no idolatry or false worship in public, and no idolatry or false worship in private either. It is said that when it came to serving the Lord, no king, and the author meant no king, came before him with such a determination to follow the law of Moses as Josiah did. It is not that Josiah didn't sin, for he did. It's just that his determination and heart was always to do right. Even David strayed from the law of Moses when it was convenient, even though he did repent later. Not seemingly so with Josiah. After finding the book of the law, Josiah was determined to observe the Passover properly, for evidently such had not been done since the days of the judges. This doesn't mean that the Passover hadn't been observed since then, for we know that it was observed in the days of Hezekiah, but it never had been observed like it was under Josiah. with so much attention paid to the details found in the book of the law. Yet even through all of this, God would not relent on the judgment that he pronounced upon Judah because of the sins of Manasseh. Now you might wonder why, for in Jonah, God did relent from his destruction of Assyria upon their repentance. Well, for that, we'll get a clearer picture when we come to the book of Jeremiah, and in the next lesson as to what happens to Judah's attitude after Josiah's death. For now, though, I believe it is necessary for us to realize that for Josiah, he followed the Lord with all his heart, soul, and might, but Judah did not. Sure, they did all the right outward things, but they did that at the command of the king. They seemingly didn't do it from the heart, though, because it is what they wanted to do. For after Josiah's death, they would simply return to their idolatrous ways before Nebuchadnezzar came and took them off into captivity. And this is a warning for us today. God doesn't just want the outward signs of worship. He wants the heart. He wants us to live out his truth in this world, to desire to worship him because we love him, not simply because we don't want to go to hell. He desires that we worship him in spirit and in truth, as Jesus said in John 4:24. Josiah did that. The people of Judah apparently did not. And because of that, God was going to send Judah off into captivity, just as he did Israel. But he wouldn't use Assyria for that. For in between the 18th year of Josiah and the 31st year of Josiah, when he died, a lot is going to go on in world history. Ashurbanipal, the last great king of Assyria, died in 631 BC. His two sons would become Assyria's next two rulers, and throughout their reigns, Assyria got weaker and became engulfed in civil war with, among others, the Medes, the Babylonians, and the Chaldeans. This war was bitter fought, but in 612 BC, Nineveh, the capital of Assyria, fell. Now this didn't mean that the Assyrian Empire fell with it, but it was badly weakened. The Assyrian king Sinsariskin was killed in the Battle of Nineveh, leaving his son Ashurbanipal II to be the final king of Assyria. He, along with the army, would flee to Haran, the same Haran that Abraham came from Canaan from, and from where Laban and Rebekah lived. And bolstered by an alliance with the Egyptians under Pharaoh Necco's reign, he would be able to reign there for 3 years. However, the Assyrian army was severely weakened and would again be threatened by the Babylonians under their first king, Nabopolassar. The reason I gave you all this history is because of the events of verses 29 and 30 occurred because Nabopolassar was threatening Haran and the Assyrian king in 609 BC. Pharaoh Necco was coming up to help the Assyrians in the hope of beating the Babylonians. And of course, the quickest way for him to get to Haran was for him to pass through western Judah and up through Samaria. Now Josiah didn't like the action taken by Necco here, and so went up to meet him with his army at Megiddo. Neither 2 Kings or 2 Chronicles explain to us why Josiah decided to go up and meet Necco, nor why in 2 Chronicles Josiah didn't listen to Necco when Necco told Josiah that his quarrel wasn't with him to return to Jerusalem. Thus, we can only guess from the events of the time that perhaps Josiah wanted the Assyrians to lose, for after all, they had been the major player in the region for over 125 years by this point. Perhaps he thought that if Babylon won, that Judah would be freer to chart its own course under Josiah, who was only 39 years old by that time. But whatever his reason, Josiah was foolish here, for Necco told him not to attack, showing us that Necco didn't want to kill Josiah, for that might weaken his army, which he needed to help repel the Babylonians. Josiah didn't listen, and so died at the hands of Pharaoh Necco at Megiddo. 2 Chronicles will give us more details on this death, so we'll leave more of our comments on it until then. Now, the way Josiah died in battle here has some scholars believing that Huldah's prophecy that Josiah would go to his grave in peace wasn't fulfilled, but in actuality it was. Huldah didn't say that Josiah would die in peace, simply that he would go to his grave in peace. Necco didn't burn Josiah's body. He didn't carry it with him or desecrate it in any way. He simply killed Josiah and then continued his march north. Josiah's servants carried his body back to Jerusalem and buried it in his own tomb. That is the peaceful burial. In that, it was a proper burial, unlike what happened to some of the kings of Israel. And so Huldah's prophecy came to pass in its entirety. Josiah's death, though, was tragic, For when we get to 2 Chronicles, we'll see that the Lord actually did give him a message through Necco to retreat, a message that Josiah did not heed and paid the price for it with his life. It wasn't his spiritual life, but his physical life, showing us that even righteous men can make mistakes. For Judah, Josiah's death would come with a much steeper price to pay, for with Josiah gone, they quickly returned to their evil ways and thus would be open to face the judgment that would soon come at the hands of Nebuchadnezzar. As for the next king of Judah, the people made Jehoahaz, Josiah's son, though not his oldest son, king in his father's place. We'll see his short reign, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 2 Kings chapter 23, verses 31 to 37, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.